Hi guys, and welcome to Vesna TV. It's Vesna here. I'm super excited about today's video. It is a mega video to kick off the Halloween decorating season. So let's get going. So I got my inspiration from Michael's, when it's the Little Shop of Horrors, but Michael's had this. So I was not interested in paying $89 for this, and I thought that this would be a really cute Halloween decoration, and my kiddo would really like it. The younger one will like it too because the older one likes it, but my older son is really into Halloween, so he'll love this. So what I did was I went to the Dollar Tree and I got these two footballs. Actually, I got one football because one I had at home. They're $1.25 each, and I just went ahead and I cut them almost to the about 3/4 of the way so that we could open the mouth. Then what I did was I put a little piece of like a Jenga block. Now you could do anything. You could do like a popsicle stick or anything like that. I just put it at the back of like the throat of the plant, and it's just to keep the mouth open. And then what I did was I painted the flowers and the inside. So I started off with the inside. The inside I painted using my acrylic black paint, and then the outside I painted using an acrylic green. Again, everything from the Dollar Tree, but I had all of these on hand. So just use a kitchen knife to cut these, and I'm going to play some music in the background and stop talking. So enjoy the spooky music and watch how I've done this. So I'm going to apologize for the messy work area, but I went ahead and I did like a craft-a-palooza where I did like a whole bunch of DIYs at once, so it is a little bit messy. So once these dried, I went ahead and I applied a little bit of red around the mouth just to give it an illusion that it's a mouth. And I just used the holiday red from Dollar Tree, which I had from, like, I purchased it a while ago. And then I will go ahead and glue some teeth. For the teeth, what I'm using is just some foam because I had it. You could use a little bit of cardboard if you have white cardboard. You could use paper. You could really use anything you wanted. This is a super cheap project, and you could technically use a lot of like stuff that you would normally throw out. So I'm really excited about this. So here I am going to attach the teeth. I also wound up adding just a little piece of a flower inside the mouth just to give it that little bit of extra design, I guess. I just like the way it looked. You don't have to do that. I did that with mine, and it was a piece of orchid that I had from a leftover project, and literally I used like one little petal of the, like one or two little petals of the plant. And I just use my hot glue gun to glue all of this stuff down. For the stem of the plant, again, you could use anything you want, but what I did was I just used 2 twigs from my backyard, so they were free, and I attached them to the bottom of the flower. And then I also went ahead and bought this tropical plant from the Dollar Tree, and I put it in my pot, and I put the stems in there, and there you have it. So now this project cost me a total of $3.75 because I had or no, I'm sorry, I'm lying to you, $2.50 because I had most of the stuff on hand. I'm redoing this witch's sign. I made this sign last year and I really like what it says and how it's supposed to look, but I don't like the size of the letters and like the proportions of everything, so I'm going to be redoing it. Basically the same way. I was thinking about maybe making it orange, but I love this charcoal black from Rust-Oleum and the white, so I'm just going to be keeping it like that. So my name is Vesna. If you have not come to my channel before, welcome. In my channel, you can expect to see trash to treasures, DIYs, thrift flips, furniture painting, any of those kinds of things that have to do with home decor. I do them. So if that's something you're interested in, please make sure you stick around, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell, and so that way you can see more of my videos. So I'm going to start off by painting the sign, the charcoal black. So what we have to do is just cover the lettering and everything with the charcoal black. I'm not doing like a full-on 2-coat coverage or anything like that because it's going to cover it anyway. I'll just do 2 coats just to cover the white, and that's it. So as I said, I did another coat of this. It wasn't necessary to do more than that, just to make sure that the white wasn't coming through, and it blended well together. That's why I love chalk paint. Really, it's so versatile. And again, I was using the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint. After that dried, or while that was drying, I went ahead and I cut out the letters with my Cricut as well as the design so that I could stick it on the sign. Even though I measure all of my letters and my designs, still when I go ahead and I attach them to the sign, I obviously am using the transfer paper. I use the stencil vinyl that I got on Amazon. But first I line up everything to make sure that it's fitting, and then I go ahead and stick on one by one, just in case I have to move something or whatnot. Because otherwise you'll have to paint over it. I've done a sign before where I forgot a letter, so then I had to start again. So just to save myself a little bit of trouble, I do it this way. So I made the hat about 9 inches long, and then it's October. I made them 8 inches wide and 3.5 inches tall, and then each of the letters I made them 8 inches wide and 5.5 inches long. And then the feet I originally made, and same with the hat, so I originally made them around 12 inches, or sorry, 11 inches, because the Cricut mat is 12 inches and I always make them an inch less. And then I cut them down a little bit more because I wouldn't be able to use the bigger letters. So I would say that the feet are about 8 inches, and same with the hat. I showed you the paint can a little bit before this, but the paint is just a white paint that I have, and it's an interior exterior Valspar latex paint. It's just white because we had it like hanging around, so I've been trying to use it up for various projects, but that's all I used. Now when I attach the W and I paint over and I take my vinyl off, I notice that it's a little bit too small, because the W, you know how it goes out, it is 8 inches wide, but it's not as big as I'd like it to be. So I go over and I freehand make it a little bit bigger. And you can see once I remove the vinyl from the W, I don't know why I painted the bottom as well, but I did. So now it looks kind of funny, but I'll just attach the eye there and then you can't even see it. This is what the great thing is about painting. You can always fix everything up. So I wasn't too concerned. So then I go ahead and I just use the charcoal paint again just to touch up some of the white spots that I got paint, like some of the spots where I got the white paint on, and to fix up my W, and to fix up some, like I said, just anywhere where the paint kind of bled through, and it did bleed through in a few spots. This was my fault. I did not push the vinyl enough, so make sure that's very important when you're transferring the vinyl onto your signs, that you push super hard so that the vinyl sticks to the board, because otherwise it'll lift up and then you'll get paint underneath and it'll look messy and then you'll have to fix it up like I did. And here is the sign. I love the way it turned out. I think it looks great. It'll look awesome on my porch when I have the pops of color with my mums and my pumpkins. Is using these Dollar Tree pumpkins. I got them for $1.25 each, and I actually just realized that these pumpkins only come out at least at our Dollar Tree at Halloween, because they're carving pumpkins. So I didn't know that. I was looking for them for, almost a month when they had all their other fall stuff. So I'm just going to be painting them black using, I had some leftover house paint, so I'm just going to be using that to paint these pumpkins black, just because I didn't want to use up all of my acrylic paint, but you could totally use acrylic paint. I don't have a lot of it, and I needed it for the other projects, so I didn't want to use it up. And I'm going to do 2 coats of the black on here, and I'm just letting them dry on skewers. I have long skewers, and I've just put them in there so that way they dry nicely. So after the two coats, you can see that I've taken the tops off. I'm now just going to stick them on. I was going to use hot glue to stick them on, but I'm going to use skewers. But before I do that, I'm using these chalk markers to write trick or treat. So trick on one or on the other and treat on the third one. Now I just measured, the pumpkins have like a crease down the middle, so I measured from each side how much I needed for my letters, and that's how I made sure that they would be kind of positioned or like the same width and same size. Positioning is easy because I decided to put them on skewers, so you can just turn them whichever way you need to make them even. Um, and then I, on the other side, I wrote boo, so that would, depending on if I'm not sure where I'm going to display them. So if I display them somewhere where you can see the back, then you can see boo and trick or treat. Or depending on my mood or what I want to, sometimes I like to surprise my kids. So in the morning, they'll wake up one day, it'll be trick or treat, the next day boo, and they'll find it amazing. And once everything was dry, including the chalk writing, I put them on one on top of the other, and I saved one of the stems that I had taken off at the beginning of the video, and I painted it just white using that Rust-Oleum chalked linen white that you can see in the frame, and put everything together, and that was my pumpkin topiary. So really easy DIY and very cheap, cost me $3.75. So my next DIY is a super fun DIY as well. I have these pieces of wood that were left over from a different DIY project. It's actually from the doors that I made, well, that we made, my husband and I, on our built-in shelves. So I will be painting these doors, or sorry, these little pieces of wood out different colors, and I'm going to be making a little boo sign. Originally, I was going to do Happy Halloween, but because the sign was too big, I couldn't use that. So I just used these wooden letters from the Dollar Tree that just say boo. And I'm painting two of the boards white because I'm going to have a mummy, a Frankenstein, and a ghost. So for the mummy and the ghost, I'm painting them white using the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white. I must say this paint has gone a long way for me. I've had it for several projects, and I still have some. I painted two fireplaces, built-in shelves, um, a cabinet, a whole bunch of DIYs. This has gone a really long way. For the green, I'm just using just a green acrylic paint that I got at the Dollar Tree. I was using it for a different project, so it was perfect that I had it left over. And I'm painting this guy green and leaving those two guys white. Now I'm only drawing faces on these, so I'm not going to use my Cricut to cut them out. I'm just going to freehand draw them in a pencil and then go over them with a Sharpie. And I also go over them with a chalk marker for some of the white because I needed white and I didn't want to use full-on paint. I do wind up using paint for Frankenstein's hair just because it's a big chunk of black to use, so I just used some of the acrylic paint I had left over. And you can make these faces however you want. This is how I envisioned them. I've seen these types of pictures on Pinterest quite a bit, so that was my inspiration. But again, a super easy, super quick DIY, and it cost me $3.75 because it only cost me those letters, so a cheap DIY too. I wound up connecting the boards as well so that I could make one solid sign, and I'll show you what I did there. For the mummy, I wind up wrapping it in toilet paper. I thought I had some gauze, but didn't have enough, so I just used toilet paper, which made the project the price that it was, and just did the trick. I glued it with some permanent glue just so that the toilet paper would stick. You could use hot glue as well. I'm assuming it would hold the paper fine. So just up to you. I just happened to have this on hand, and my hot glue gun wasn't warm yet, so I used that. Once my sign part was done, then I go ahead and I paint the boo letters in the leftover acrylic back paint that I used for the design. And I do everything, I don't do both sides. I just do the inside and the outside and let that dry. Then I will connect the board. So then once all the details were done, what I wound up doing was putting a little board at the bottom, well, kind of near the bottom of the sign, and screwing it in after I glued all the pieces together using hot glue and permanent glue. And they were glued together, and then because I used the hot glue, I was able to do the other side right away. I screwed in the other piece, and then I hot glued and permanent glued the boo at the bottom, and the boo at the bottom acts as a little bit of a stand because it's a bit thicker, so it provides a bit of stability for the sign to stand on its own. So I wound up removing this little piece and again putting it at the bottom and then putting another piece at the top, just to hold it together. And if you're not sure, the reason I'm doing the combination of both the hot glue and the E6000 is because then it'll provide that permanent hold right away. Well, it'll provide that hold right away, and then the permanent glue provides a permanent hold. So that way I can put the sign and don't have to worry about pressing it down with something to hold everything in place. So once I glue everything down, I just do a little bit of a touch-up using some white paint because some of the black from the boo brushed off onto the sign. It's just because it wasn't quite dry. I thought it was, but clearly it wasn't. So this project wasn't as quick as the other one, but still fairly quick and really easy to do and a lot of fun. I think this is such a cute little sign. So on to the next project. So for the next project, I'm making another little sign, but it's kind of more like a directional sign. I've seen tons of these on Pinterest, so I thought it would be really cute to make. I'm using just leftover scrap pieces of wood. So I was going to use this for a different project. I had a whole bunch of hot glue on here, so I'm just scraping it off with my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to be painting these little sticks as well as that little piece of wood in black. The little sticks I'm going to glue together with hot glue and permanent glue to make a post, and I'm going to glue that post to the bottom base. And that'll be the base and post for my sign. for the parts that show which way to go and the directions, I'm going to be using these garden sticks from the Dollar Tree. They're a whole bunch in a pack, so I only need 4. And I'm going to be painting them out. Now I was using just a mixture of colors. I used blue and green and black together, orange and black together, and green and black together. And then for that last piece, I added some white as well. Once they dried and I adjusted the colors to the way I wanted them, I just put the names of a bunch of different horror movies, so like names from a bunch of different horror movies on here, using some white chalk paint as well as like a chalk marker. My goodness, I can't talk. As well as a red marker, red Sharpie. Just to get different effects. And then from 2 of the sticks, I cut off the pointy parts to have just a little bit of a different sign. So I have written Elm Street, Camp Crystal Lake. So Elm Street from Nightmare on Elm Street, Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th, Sleepy Hollow, and Salem. And I think these are super cute. I love Halloween and I love scary movies, so this will be super cute. And once my kids are older, they'll know where these are from. And once everything is glued and dried, I'll show you what it looks like. So I love, 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 love how it turned out. I hope you do too. I think it's awesome and spooky and really fantastic and super easy to make. I am going to be recreating this boo sign from the Dollar Tree. This was $1.25 as I'm in Canada, so things are $1.25 here at the Dollar Tree. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the sign in two different color, two different styles, and then the middle I'm going to wrap some jute rope on it, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So first I start off with painting the bee in this acrylic black. I'm not gonna show you how the entire like all the steps of painting, but I'm going to paint it black, and then the bottom I'm going to paint a silver color, and then I'll show you how I finish them off. So um, the black, I'm just making sure it covers, and same with the silver. You won't see me painting the last O silver and the exclamation mark, but you'll see once I start to decorate them what I mean. So unfortunately, because I wasn't recording myself painting the silver, I also missed recording myself putting on the jute rope. So what I did is I used my glue gun and jute rope from the dollar store to wrap it around the O. So I just put one end down, put glue on, and then slowly wrapped all the way around until I got all of the pieces, all of the whole O covered. I then went ahead and I added some warm white, some champagne, as well as, no, sorry, cashmere, as well as some black, and I mixed those. Well, I didn't mix them, I put them all in the bowl, and then I just kind of went and dry brushed or lightly brushed the bee with those colors. I wanted it to look kind of like a Halloween, dark night, cloudy sky type of effect, and I think I achieved it. So you'll see the end result there. After I achieved the look of my bee, I moved on to the O, and for the O, I was trying to achieve a galvanized look, and so I used warm white, black, silver, a little bit of blue, and I just kind of kept on dabbing and dry brushing until I achieved the look I was going for. I can't tell you really what the steps are for me to achieve the color. I just kind of keep on going until I get what I was looking for. So I started off with the silver base, then I added black. I dabbed some black on it, then I dabbed a bit of the warm white. Then I didn't like the way it was looking, so I went back and I put some of the blue, and then I still didn't like it, so I went back, put the black, and I just kept on going until I achieved the look, and it really is up to you. I also wound up using a little bit of that cashmere too, because I wanted it to be kind of like galvanized, but kind of old galvanized steel, so if that makes any sense. If I found it to be too wet or too much of something, I also dabbed it off with a paper towel. And again, I just kept on doing it until I achieved the look I was looking for. Here you can see a mix. So what I did was I wound up mixing all those colors together. I had them separately in the bowl, and then I mixed them together, and I put that on, and I dabbed that onto the O. And then like I said, I still wasn't happy, so I added a bit more black, and then I added a little bit more white. So today's project was a quick project, but I think it turned out really nicely. You could add a bow to the top if you wanted and hang it up as a wall hanging, add it to a wreath. I will likely be using this in my tiered tray, just standing up on its own. I'm really, really, really happy with the way it turned out. I think it's a cute little sign. Again, it was quick, it was inexpensive to make, and it's something anyone could do. And I love that the Dollar Tree has these nice wood letters. I just think they're so fantastic. Creating a shadow box using this haunted house from the Dollar Tree and just a scrap cardboard box from actually a box of tomatoes. So to start off, I'm going to be painting the inside of the box orange. I have this orange acrylic paint that I bought at the Dollar Tree. It was the only one that they had, so that's the one that I'm using. So you can just see what the shade of orange is in there. And I'm just going to cover the box so that you can't see the cardboard on the inside. I thought I was going to do another coat of the orange, but after it dried, I liked the coverage, so I left it. Now you could totally do a darker orange if you had it. It's whatever you have on hand. but this is what I had, and it it covered it fine. I do wind up using a bit of a baby wipe just to blend all of the colors together. Not a bit of a baby wipe. I use a baby wipe to blend the orange to the cardboard, as you can see that I'm doing here. After this dries, I go ahead and I deal with the outside of the box, and I use black paint for the outside of the box. But before I go ahead to paint that, I want to paint my haunted house, which I'm also painting black. And I'm just using a Dollar Tree acrylic black paint to do this. And I'm using the just a Dollar Tree brush to paint on the black paint. I only need to do one coat. It's easy coverage. It's a dark color and a light color, so super easy to do. Then for the sides of the box, I'm not doing the back of the box, but for the sides of the box, I'm using just leftover black house paint that we had on hand. That little sample there that you can see, it's a bare black paint, but it could be anything you wanted. I just didn't want to use up all of my acrylic paint because I'm running low. Now I wound up doing a little bit of the black kind of seeping into the orange on the inside just to give it kind of like a spookier look. And once everything dried, I cut out this tree just from black cardstock and I just drew it out with my like freehand. And then I had these foam cats and bats and owls just left over from different projects. And then I went ahead and I used, because I only had a purple bat, I wound up cutting it out from one of the cats, just doing my own bat, and I wind up hot gluing these onto the box. So I'll show you what I do. After those are cut out, I wind up just assembling the shadow box and seeing how I like it before I glue everything on. So this is what you should do before you glue things on as well, just to make sure that this is the look you're going for. I'm using hot glue, so it's not permanent, so I could take it off, but sometimes it takes the paint off, so then you just have to redo it. So make sure you're happy with what you're putting on before you glue it down. After I've glued that down, I go ahead and I place some lights into the shadow box. These are the mini lights from Dollar Tree. They were $1.25. I'm in Canada, so everything's $1.25 with the copper wire. And I put them on the inside of the box through that little hole that you can see at the bottom there. I put the cable through there, and then that way the on and off switch is easily accessible behind the shadow box, and then you can't see it on the inside of the shadow. And I love the way this looks. My kids said it was spooky, so it's a win-win. If you like the way this looked, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. If you want to see more, consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed yet. I'm going to show you how you can recreate the Dollar Tree carving pumpkins, the little orange ones, 3 different ways and super easy ways. So to start off, I got this fabric at Value Village. It's actually it's not fabric, it's a blanket, and I thought it would be perfect for one of these pumpkins. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the stem off, and it's just attached. I think there's a little bit of hot glue, but it's a toothpick and it's just attached on a toothpick. And I'm going to carve out a little hole at the top so that I can tuck my fabric in. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just using an X-Acto knife, nothing spectacular. You could use any kind of knife that you have on hand, and just cut out a hole big enough that you can fit it in, but not too huge so it doesn't, so your fabric doesn't come out. Once you've carved the hole out, you can either push that back in or take it out. I didn't mean to push it in, but it kind of went in. But you can see the hole's not very big. It's just a little square diamond kind of shape. And then you want to measure out your fabric. I used 18 by 24 inches. And it seemed to be the perfect size to also have a stem made out of the fabric. You could do smaller, you could do bigger, totally up to you. I just wanted to do as much as I needed, but as little so I'm not wasting any of this blanket or fabric because I might use it for a pillow or something else. And then what you want to do is you're just going to, when you're measuring to see if it'll fit, you just want to see, okay, well, how big do I want it to tuck everything in? You could hot glue it on into little strips. I've done that before with burlap, but for this, this is the easiest thing you could do ever. You just cut off a big square of fabric and you just tuck everything in. Now, what I wound up just doing when you're tucking in, I wanted them to overlap, so I'm going to show you how I do that. Thank you. So you want to position your pumpkin in the middle of the square. And when you do that, then you want to take off any tags or anything like that. And I decided that I wanted to, just like I said, overlap them. So as I'm doing this, I notice there's a little piece kind of sticking out. So I'll have to go back and fix it. But that's the beauty of not gluing it. You can go back and fix it as many or as a few times as you want. If you want to pay attention to the pattern of the fabric, you can do that too. If you want the skull, like if you wanted the skulls a certain way, or something at the top versus not at the versus at the bottom, totally up to you, but this is super easy. So you just tuck that in, and then for the last piece I made it super tight, and then I also left I will also leave a little bit out for the stem. So I'm trying to play around with it, and as you can see, I wasn't liking that little corner there. And that's what it is. You just have to kind of play around with it to the way you want it. So I wound up taking it out and pulling out the middle for the stem. Originally I was gonna use just like a stem from outside, but then I decided, wow, it would be really cool to use the fabric. So I'll show you how I did that. So after playing around with it and seeing what I would like best, then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take it apart and try to leave a little bit of fabric, like I said, for the stem. And that's exactly what I did. So that 24 by 12 by 18 is more than enough to leave this. So the next pumpkin, I'm going to make it into a theme of A Nightmare Before Christmas. So another super easy DIY, I guess, for these pumpkins. So all I'm doing is I'm using some linen white from Rust-Oleum. It's a chalked paint. And I'm painting this pumpkin all around in white. I will wind up doing 2 coats just because some of the orange was seeping through. And once that dries, then I wind up just drawing a face. So I'll show you how I do that. So for the face, I just use a black Sharpie and I just use an image online just so I can kind of see how I'm going to draw that. So first I drew it with a pencil and then I went ahead and I traced it over with my black Sharpie. The reason I did it in pencil was obviously in case I make a mistake so that I can erase it easily. And then I just wind up coloring it in with a Sharpie. You could use paint, you could use your Cricut if you had one, or if you had stencils, you could do that. I just did this freehand just to show you how easy it is to make this. And it took me no time. I mean, the longest part of this craft was the drawing process. So here's what he looks like all finished, and I think he is super cute. It's good old Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas. So here he is, all completed. Super cute, super quick, and super fun and cheap. Little craft. If you don't have chalk paint, you could always use acrylic paint. I just didn't have any pure white acrylic paint. So for this pumpkin DIY, unfortunately, I have the footage of me putting it together. So what I did for this pumpkin was I found some free Halloween background paper online, and this is what I found. And then I wound up printing that, and I needed 3 sheets, and I printed 3 sheets, and I cut them into strips, and then I Mod Podged them. I wound up adding a stem from a tree from outside, like a branch that fell, into the pumpkin. I kind of just pushed it in through the hole. I cut out a little hole like I did at the with the first pumpkin, and then I just put it in there. I made sure I made the hole a little bit smaller so it would fit tight, and here's what it looks like all finished. I think it's super cute. I'm going to be showing you how I made 3 pillows, well, pillow covers and pillows, I guess, on the dime basically because pillowcases and pillows are quite expensive, like decorative pillows. So I'm going to be showing you how I created these wonderful, beautiful pillows using an old pillowcase for one, a blanket for the other, and then just a white flat sheet for the third one. So here's the first one that I'm doing, and I had this pillowcase that I actually picked up at the thrift store. I like the checkered pattern, and I picked it up for, I believe it was $3 for 2 of them, so super, super cheap. And I'm just going to be cutting it to the size that I need to make my pillow. And then I'm going to attempt to use my sewing machine. I have had this sewing machine for several years, and it's very intimidating for me to use it. So I've decided that today is the day that I'm going to use it, and it turned out really well. After a few kerfuffles, I had broken the needle, so then I had to call my mom. So the embarrassing part is that my mom is a seamstress, and she's tried to teach me how to sew, and I can't for the life of me learn. So then I had to call my mom, and we had to FaceTime so that she could tell me how to put the needle back in. I had YouTubed a video on how to thread it because she's tried to teach me and I can't seem to learn. So I did a step-by-step tutorial on YouTube and I did it a few times until I got the hang of it. Then I had a piece of the machine fall off. I don't know how it happened, but so I had to call my mom again. And the problem is I don't know what these things are called, and me and my mom speak a different language to each other, so she knows how they're called in Slovak, but not in English. So then that was the other problem. So it's not like I can just Google it and say because I don't know what the thingy is. So so anyway, after I got all that fixed, then the sewing part was fine. So the last time I attempted sewing was in grade 7 and 8 in home ec class. So that was a very, very, very long time ago. So anyway, but I'm really happy with the way they turned out. It's not straight. It's not perfect by any means, but it is good enough for me. So what I'm doing with the right now is I'm going to be stuffing the pillows. So right now I'm just folding over the edges because I didn't cut them the nicest. So I'm just folding them over so that I could do a straight, like a straight sew across so that way it looks neat. And I'm using the bobby pins to help me so I don't lose my shape. And then I'm going to close it shut almost all the way, just leaving a little bit open so that I could put my stuffing in. The stuffing that I'm using is just from an old pillow that I had that was falling apart. So I just took the stuffing out and I put it in here. So once I completed the sewing and the stuffing, this is what it turned out like. I really, really love it. I was going to put either fall or something like that using my Cricut, but then when I saw it finished, I love the way it is as is, and I'm just leaving it this way. I think it's beautiful. So for my next one, I'm just using this white fitted sheet. I had cut off a piece that was as big as the pillow that I needed, well, two pieces, and I'm going to sew all of the sides together. Now, from my last project, I remembered that you should sew inside out and then flip it over so that way the edges always look nice. So that's what I'm doing now. As you can see, I didn't do the best job cutting. So it'll be nice to have those clean edges. And you can see that I've taken apart the sewing machine now. Well, not apart, I just took that little drawer out, but it's because I was fixing it. So I just left it open. So again, I'm just going to make sure that it's nice and tight, not too loose, not too tight, but just nice and tight so I can get a straight edge. I should have bobby pinned this as well, but I didn't. So I'm just pushing it through. And I always, whenever I start off the sewing, this is what my mom used to do, is you start off like going towards you, then you reverse it, and then you go back towards you to make a stronger stitch, I guess. And that you do that at the beginning and at the end. Now this white pillowcase will be a pillow cover, and the pillow that I'm using are actually the outdoor pillows from Dollar Tree. They are a really fun, nice square shape. They're not too fluffy, not too soft, and they're super durable. So I'm using that one, and I have a whole bunch of them, and I just put pillowcases over top of them. So I have Christmas themed ones that I bought. Maybe this year I'll attempt to make some. And then you'll see me make this Halloween one. So for this one, I'm actually leaving a majority of the bottom part open because I'm going to do kind of like what pillows that you sleep on have, it like where you fold it in. So that's what I'm doing with this one. This free SVG online, and I cleaned it up and put this, and I'm going to heat press this on my Cricut. I'm using heat transfer vinyl. Remember, anytime you do heat transfer vinyl, you have to mirror the image and make sure that you put the shiny side down when you're cutting it, and then the matte side down when you're pressing it on. So originally I put it on backwards, but I didn't heat press it. I just looked at it and I saw that it didn't look right. So, and then I put these copper, I believe, Teflon sheets on top that I got off of Amazon, and I have my little heat press little mat underneath as well. And then just in between the pillow, because it's a pillowcase, so in between, I put another Teflon sheet just so it doesn't stick together in case. And my heat transfer vinyl said to do 180 degrees for 15 seconds. So I'm just doing it in sections so that way it sticks. You don't want to do it too hot because sometimes that might melt the vinyl, but then you don't want to do it too little because it won't stick. It is one of the vinyls that you remove when it's still warm, and there we have it. So this is what it turned out, all finished with a pillow inside. I think it is so cute. I love this design. I've seen many pillows with this, and I think they are fantastic. For my last pillow, I have this blanket that I bought at the thrift store. Again, it was about $7 and it's quite a big blanket. I already used it for a pumpkin project and now I'm going to be using it for a pillow. And again, I'm making those long pillows instead of it's a rectangle pillow instead of a square pillow. And this one I'm going to be making it as a pillow cover that I'm going to be closing all the way. So, you could totally, if you didn't want to sew, you could use a hot glue gun and it would be give you the same result. Here is the completed piece. I'm doing a trash item that I'm upcycling. So I'm using this um, maple syrup container from Costco. It's a Kirkland maple syrup container. And I'm going to be just spray painting it this white color. I'm not going to record myself spray painting. But to start off with, I'm just doing a base coat of white spray paint. So after I spray paint it, I do decide that I need to add a little bit more white to it. So I'm using my Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint to just go over the bottle with a coat of the white paint. And again, I'm doing all sorts of strokes. I'm not going in one direction because it is chalk paint and it is okay to have it go in all sorts of directions. And I'm doing this because it'll just give that like a little bit more depth to the paint. So, and that's the kind of look I was going for. So once I finish that, then I add a little bit of decor to it. So I'm making kind of like because to me, this bottle looks like an old milk can or something like that. So I am wanting to use it as a vase for a spooky Halloween flower. After my paint dries, I add a little bit of jute rope. Now this jute rope is just left over from a project that I had done and then redone because I wasn't happy with the way it looked. So this was a little piece left over. So I'm just going to be attaching it, well, hot gluing it to the top of the bottle. And it's just to give it a little bit more detail. So I just put the hot glue around like so, and I just wrap it around a few times. I didn't really measure or anything, it's just the piece that I had, and then I just attached it a couple times. I think it was about 4 times that it went around, and then that's it. I glued it down, and then I decided to add a little bit more to the vase. Originally I was going to just do white, but then after I finished it, I looked and I thought it needed a little bit more detail. So I am adding this black paint from Bear. It's just paint that I had left over from, I don't even know from what, on hand. And I'm just going to kind of give it like an enamel type of look. So I'm adding a little bit of black to different parts of the bottle or the vase, just to give it a bit more detail and that farmhousey look that I really like. So this is where the spookiness comes from. Now these are just some black and purple roses that I had bought when I was going to make a Halloween wreath a few years ago, but I didn't wind up doing it. And then I wound up just taking some of the flowers off for different projects. And I'm going to be adding some eyeballs to these flowers. These eyeballs are actually erasers, I believe. These were from my old job. We were doing like an event for Halloween, and um, for whatever reason, we had these in some shapes. I don't even remember, this was so many years ago, but I kept them as like bat shapes, cat shapes, and then these eyeballs and some worms and spiders. So I kept them because I thought they would be kind of cool little things to do crafts from, but I never wound up using them until now. So I'm going to be gluing these eyeballs with just some hot glue. I've cut them in half so that way I could use both sides, and I'm just gluing them on. Now I wind up just drawing an eyeball on one of them because I cut two of them in half, used the eyeball sides for the two, and then I had one white piece that I wanted to use up, and I drew my own eyeball with a Sharpie marker on there. And I just attached them to the middle of the flower, of the rose, and that's it. And I just put it in the vase, and I do that for the black one as well. So here's the completed vase. I think it turned out really, really nice. It's spooky, it's Halloween-like, it's exactly what I was going for, but yet kind of elegant. So I'm going to start off with a witch's cauldron from the Dollar Tree. Then I have these little paper towel rolls, and I have some skewers, as well as these witch's feet from the Dollar Tree. And then I will also use some floral foam and some moss. And that is it. It is going to be a super duper easy project to do. So I'm just cutting down the floral foam so I can fit it into the cauldron, so I can fit it nicely, and so I can put the skewers in there. So originally I thought I was just going to do it like that, and then I cut little pieces and I put them in between. You'll see me doing that a bit later. Then I have to cut off the top over here because I think the feet were just kind of hangers, like door hangers or something like that. So I'm going to cut this off, and of course I'm going to save it for later because I might use it for a different project. And I'm cutting as close as I can to the top so I can cut the little ring off. And then I thought maybe there would be holes in there, but there aren't. So I had to cut out holes as well. So I just cut off this piece in there, this little tool as well. Then I went ahead and I put in the paper towel rolls into the feet, like into the legs, to make them have a shape that stands up. And I just put them in as far as it went and then rolled a little bit because the feet were a little bit longer than the roll itself. But I just wound up just putting it in so it has a nice finish. And then I put the skewer in, and I did the same thing for the other leg. And when I went to put it in the cauldron, I had a bit of a hard time with it not falling over. So that's why I wound up adding more of the moss in so it's nice and tight in there. You could add something heavier in there as well and just have them stick in that way. I just thought this was the easiest, and really the only two things that I bought were the witch's feet and the cauldron because I had the moss and the floral foam on hand. And then I also noticed that these feet were flapping over, and I really wanted them to be standing up straight. So I had just a little piece of wood. It's actually from a stir stick that I had painted and cut off for another project. So again, any scrap piece of wood or anything you have, you could add. And I just wound up adding it to the back there, hot gluing it, and that helped for the feet to stand up. So you'll notice here that I'm just cutting the foam into little strips so I can fit it all nice and tight into the cauldron, and then I just add the moss. Now moss is messy, but the cauldron is a little bit higher than the moss, so it's not falling out. But if you wanted it to stick, I actually got a tip from one of my YouTube viewers, probably another YouTuber, I'm not sure, I can't remember, but she had said that sometimes hairspray works. I did try it with my other projects. It didn't stick it together that well. Now maybe I just needed a better hairspray, but it did help with some of the mess. So if you're thinking that it's too messy, spray some of that hairspray and it should do the trick. So here are the feet flapping over. So here's where I also add that little piece of wood. And again, I'm just using hot glue to glue it on to the back of the feet. And I wind up painting it all black so that way, I think I said it earlier in the video that it was painted black, but it wasn't. So I'm just going to color it in with a Sharpie in black just so that it matches the feet in case I ever want to move the cauldron a different way, or if I want to put it in a spot where you can see it from both sides, then this way it won't look so bad well, you won't even be able to tell that there's a little piece of wood there. And that is all there is to this DIY. It was super easy to do, very cheap to make. If you had to buy all these things, it would cost you under $5. And I've seen these a few times, and they're quite expensive. So, but they're super cute. So here it is. Love it. I think it turned out great. And you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching right to the end. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of these. Which one was your favorite? And don't forget to come back next Sunday where I have all brand new Halloween DIYs, which will be inspired by Kirkland's. Thank you so much. Have a great day and subscribe if you haven't subscribed.